Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being in our webinar. I'm gonna have a couple of housekeeping to inform everybody before I start. I'm gonna share my screen, but we have a technical constraint regarding the demo that we're gonna do. It's not possible to host a different speaker, so we recorded a demo. And it's also a demo with sound that is not going to come out as I expected. So I did post in the chat a link that is public. Please make sure that you can download that video, because when we hit that moment, according to the technical team here, it's better that you follow along on your end instead of trying to follow on my end, because the audio is going to be choppy. So this being said, good morning, everybody. I'm going to share my screen now and move to our webinar of today. I bring you today a topic around how to select your data partner when you are building AI applications. And my name is Daniela Braga, and I'm the founder and CEO of Define Crowd. Define Crowd is a Seattle-based company that provides high-quality, fast training data for companies building AI applications. Before that, I was on the other side of the equation, like yourselves, working as a data scientist at companies like Microsoft or VoiceBox, and having to manage large amounts of budget for data-related initiatives. So I've been in both sides. I understand the two sides of the fence. I know the hard work that goes into collecting and preparing quality data, as well as how damaging bad data can be, especially impacting the brand, jeopardizing time to market, and lowering the morale of entire product teams. My goal for this webinar today is to provide you all with two things that will help you find long-term data partners who are able to keep up with your needs that always change over time. Number one, a practical framework for determining which data providers are even worth considering. And number two, a step-by-step process that you can use to test those providers. Okay, let's run through a familiar scenario. First week on the job, and you realize you've inherited an underperforming model. You do some digging as why your model is not performing, and you get down to start looking at the training data that as a potential reason for that. And then you actually find that 20% of that data, or maybe more, is garbage, and it's introducing prediction errors on your model. So now what? Well, now you have to start getting into the hoops required to actually get the budget approved to get that data corrected. And that's probably another 2 months going up the leadership chain of approval. And then you find out that the previous data deal had, I'm sorry, and so what? And then you find out that the previous data deal had probably very attractive pricing, but you often get what you pay for, right? So that's another 6 months to fix that data at the point that you start wondering if you shouldn't start again from scratch. Well, that model you were so excited to build, and that product you were so excited to launch, and that team you were so excited to join. Well, now you're almost a year behind schedule. Your boss is breathing down your back, and saddest of all, you spent almost zero time doing what you like doing most, which is training models and shipping products. We can't see each other right now, but if we could, and I asked everybody in this room who's been in this situation before, I'm sure a lot of you are raising your hands. Well, I certainly have been there. So how do you go about choosing a data partner? Here are the questions you should be asking yourselves and the answers that those partners should be giving you. First of all, the legal part. Are they providing SLAs for quality and throughput in their contracts? This is often a very blurry area where it's kind of almost people agree on something blurry and we go as we go and things change and requirements change. That's really not what you want to you don't want to set up for your partner, and you definitely need to have clear software license agreements for what you're going to get out of it and when. Exit criteria. Are they understanding what the definition of sign-off means for you? Are they even ahead of you? Ideally, they should be ahead of you and actually know before you even start discussing that what you are expecting if they understand machine learning. The next thing is multilingual support. Well, they should cover more than the region, particularly because if you're working on a global company, you don't want the pain or cost of dealing with multiple vendors across geographical locations. And you need to know that they can handle your needs of today as well as your needs of tomorrow if you go to a different market. And who are their current clients and partners? Well, if they're not working already with companies you've heard of or are on your field, you should understand that you're taking a risk. And finally, do they provide a self-service platform as well as premium data capabilities through managed services? Because you need a partner that works for quick jobs you can handle on your own, as well as take on your premium custom data needs for the next generation of your products. Well, if you ask those questions and you get all the answers you are looking for, at least you know you're on the right path. But how can we be sure that's the right partner, really? Well, everybody these days is kind of telling you the same things, that they can do everything and all of those things. That's really only one way. You need to put them through a test. And here's a practical guide of what a test can look like. Let's take a scenario like this. Imagine you are a worldwide chain of restaurants that has just opened your first restaurant in Japan. You get a huge amount of reviews on websites like Yelp in Japan, and then you want to leverage these reviews to A, understand the broad consumer sentiment around your new restaurant and menu and services, and B, find out insights that can turn into actionable changes in your product. And that could be anything from popular to unpopular dishes, to the quality of the service, to the amount of people had to wait for a table. So this company needs sentiment, data annotation, and entity tagging. They'll test the potential partners on both fronts, and we'll use them as an example. But one thing that you need to take into account is that every model you build requires a different test suite and requires a different framework, in fact. Well, let's start through a checklist, basically, on a couple of things that can, a couple of ideal items you need to go for when you're assessing a situation like this. Step one, select the sample data that will form the base of this test. In this case, I would say about 10,000 reviews are a good number about the new restaurant, all in Japanese. Step two, you know your product better than anybody, so you should define the ontology for the project. In this case, it could be something, so at the level of the sentiments, categorization between positive, neutral, negative, or unsure. Very important to have an exit box like that. And number two, the categories you want to map sentiment to. such as organization of the menu, names of the staff, time of the day, etc., to basically then provide correlations between entities and sentiment. Step 3. Now you should have your in-house team annotate with at least 2 experts, annotate a portion of that data that will become a goal set. This is a crucial step and well worth the time, because this annotation becomes the goal set for measuring these data partners against what you define as ground truth. Now you've built up your own data sample and goal set, and next you send every vendor the 10,000 reviews collected in step 1. So you should send over the 10,000 unstructured Japanese language reviews with the goal sets blended in. This way, you're going to know in which pieces they will perform against these goal sets. And you should request at least 3 different annotators per review. There are more things to this, especially in subjective tasks like sentiment. Dynamic judgment support by that vendor is a plus for sure, especially in sentiment. In entity, obviously not so much, because anytime you have dynamic judgment, you're going to add to the cost. Be sure to evaluate these vendors with the same conditions, and each one of them should obviously get the same timeline. And a good timeline for something like this is probably 2 to 4 weeks. Well, at the end of these 4 weeks, these vendors return annotated data. And now, because you have those goal sets, you have a benchmark for comparing each vendor's output. F1 score is a standard measure that combines precision and recall. Any average results with an F1 score of at least 0.8 or above is a good number. For those that make the cut, the next thing is to compare their results on that other part of the data that your team didn't annotate. For that, you are looking primarily for individuals and annotators' performance, and that can be measured with inter-annotator agreement scores, with real-time audit thresholds against the goal set, and then you should compare that at least with 2 out of 3 across the board, which again comes down to the dynamic judgment portion across vendors as well. At this point, you have a decent idea of each vendor's annotation abilities. You still need to know now if they can handle the next step, which is a data collection step. So basically, you can go back to them and ask for a new data collection of the least represented entities on that sample. So essentially, in the beginning, you don't know what you're getting in terms of tags. As the data comes back, you probably are going to see uneven distribution of tags. Now, in order for your model to be well represented, you need equal or fairly balanced distribution of those tags. That's when having a vendor who can go beyond, which is anticipating that if you have, for example, a lack of negative reviews, they should be actually able to collect or web crawl reviews about your company that have, for example, less than 3 stars, and annotate them, only those. So that's, annotate them at sentiment and entity level. So this confirms that they truly understand how ML works and that they can source the kind of highly specific data that you need. Well, at this point, you have a good idea of each partner's data annotation and collection capabilities. Now imagine that you have your model training suite fully connected with the partner at the user experience level, without leaving the training the training environment. That's the reason why we at the FineCrowd partnered with IBM Watson Studio. Now, our data services are available on the very same platform where data scientists build, test, and tune their models. And I'd like to just take some time to show you exactly how this works, which is now the demo piece that I invite you to click. I posted the link on the chat box of the system here. And I will play it along here on my side, but for better results, please, I recommend that you please actually play it on your side.
Hello, my name is Armand Ruiz. I'm the lead product manager for Watson Studio and Watson Machine Learning. And I'm here to talk to you about the integration with the FineCrowd that will allow Watson Studio users to collect, enrich, and structure high-quality data at scale to support your AI initiatives, all within the Watson Studio platform. So, really excited about this. Watson Studio platform basically it provides all the tooling that accelerates the machine learning and deep learning workflows required to infuse AI in your business so you can drive innovation. So it provides a suite of tools to build, train, and deploy models at scale. To go a little bit more in detail what is included in Watson Studio, it comes with the best of breed open source and IBM tools. So in open source we have Jupyter Notebooks, RStudio, you can code in R, Python, and Scala, and we have a lot of different IBM tools like SPSS Modeler for creating those visual pipelines in a very simple user interface. We have Cognos dashboards to share the results, data refinery to prepare data, model builder for AutoML, and on and on. That is all powered by different machine and deep learning runtimes, depending on your needs. We provide the best of open source like Spark, Scikit-learn, XGBoost, TensorFlow, Caffe, Keras, or you can bring your own as you wish. It's an open platform, so you can always import your own libraries, your own frameworks, and use them. It's all fully managed in the IBM cloud, but we also provide options behind the firewall, and it's meant for scale. So it's all built on a very modern infrastructure with Docker, Kubernetes. We have NVIDIA GPUs in the IBM Cloud as a Service, or Power AI to truly accelerate your deep learning experimentation. So the integration with the FineCrowd will basically allow users to get high-quality guarantees through SLAs in 46 different languages to ensure users that they can get high-performance results and when they are training their machine learning models. So in order to demo this integration, I would like to share with you the use case and the scenario. So imagine I'm a data scientist and I have a lot of review data from restaurants. Reviews can come from TripAdvisor, from Yelp, from Google My Business, from Facebook, from many different sources. And what we want to do is automatically classify those reviews in positive, neutral, and negative. Here the challenge is that those reviews are in Japanese, and I don't speak Japanese, so I couldn't annotate myself that dataset. And also we have high volumes of reviews. In this case, you can see a screenshot of the user interface that is used by this customer, and they have almost 4,000 reviews in the last 6 months. So it's high volume of reviews and in many different languages. So what we need here is to have a high quality data set so we can train that model and then evaluate the prediction, model precision, and the FineCrowd here is going to help us on that. So the workflow that we're going to follow is, first of all, we're going to connect to the data. Then we're going to crowdsource humans to annotate that data, and then we're going to use a tool to clean that data, train models, and deploy those models. So let's get started. This is the Watson Studio user interface. So from here, you can do many different things. You can create a new project, you can find data in your catalog, refine data, new notebook, deep learning, a lot of different options. We're going to start here with a project, and a project is basically how users come here together to collaborate and try to solve a specific use case. So in this case, we're going to train a model, as I said before, to classify reviews in Japanese. So we have a project that we already created. It's called the Find Crowd demo. And when you open a project, you can see a number of assets that you already have in the project. You have I have a number of collaborators here, and I can see all the collaborators in this screen. And in this case, we're all admins, but we can change to admin, viewer, editor, and so on. We can see as well all the activity that happened in this specific project, and then we have a README option as well to share some instructions with new collaborators. So what we're going to do next is connect this project to the Find Crowd. So in order to do that, what we do is go to Settings, and here in Settings we have an Integrations section, and you can see the Find Crowd option. So directly from here you can click Contact the Find Crowd and create a request for a trial, so you can create an account directly from this interface. And once you have an account ready, you can basically connect your account to Watson Studio. So this is what we're gonna do now. We already have an account. We're gonna sign in. And now we are in the Define Crowd platform, and we're gonna generate a new API key, which is what we need in order to connect the platform. So we're gonna name the API key, Define Crowd Demo, and grant full access. We need the key ID and the key secret, so we copy that, and then we come back to the Watson Studio interface and we paste the keys. So once we paste this, Watson Studio is going to validate that the two platforms are properly connected. And next, what we're going to do is we can go as well and add funds to the Find Crowd in order to annotate data. In this case, you have different options to purchase credits. And what we're going to do next is connect to our dataset. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to use a CSV file that I have on my laptop. So I import the CSV file. And once it's ready, it's going to show up here in my project. And I can click on it to get a preview. So this is how the dataset looks like. There is only one column and then a lot of different reviews in Japanese. In this case, I don't understand Japanese, so I cannot really train this model by myself. So what we're going to do is click on Annotate. And once we click on Annotate, this is going to take me to the workflow to create what we call the annotation job within the Find Crowd. In this case, we're going to select the name. We're going to call it DC Demo in this case. And we're going to select the template that we provide out of the box. This is a text sentiment annotation template. We have this template for now. We're going to be adding more in the future, and then also options to customize those templates. For this use case, as I said before, the language is Japanese, so we're going to select Japanese from the drop-down, and the crowd workers will be based in Japan. We click Next, and then here we need to select the column that we want to annotate and how many contributors do we want. We click Next, and here we have an overview of the cost of this annotation job. In this case is 99 records, and we have one contributor, so this is going to be around $9. And the annotation value options will be positive, neutral, negative, or not sure. So basically we'll have 4 different options. So once we click Submit, in this case, what we're going to see is that the annotation job is in process, so we'll get a notification that we are sending the data to the Find Crowd platform, and we can always click there to see what's going on in the monitoring console. So you can see in this case how many records are already annotated and what is the progress and the timeline. So we're going to come back to the Watson Studio user interface now, and we can see more details here on the sidebar about the annotation job. And then from Watson Studio, we see that the annotation job is now running, and soon it's going to be completed. And when it's completed, we have a notification that if we click on it, it's going to take us directly to the new annotated dataset. So this is extremely cool, because now we have our dataset annotated by crowd workers that understand Japanese very well, and they basically annotated the reviews in the different options. So now with this, we come back to Watson Studio, and we are going to prepare the data to train a model. So the first thing that we need is to prepare the data and split it into training and testing. So for this, we're going to use this visual tool that allows us to visualize this training pipeline in a very simple way. We have the label data as an input, and in this case, we have a set of different steps. The first one, I'm going to basically change the name. This is just me. I prefer to change the name to review text of the field. We're going to filter some of the columns that we have in the data set that we don't actually need. So for example, things like the ID, we don't need the ID. So we filter some of those values. We reorder some of the fields, and then we partition the data set. So in order to partition the data set, here we are choosing to use 80% of the data set for training and 20% for testing. And then we provide two different outputs. All right, so once we have this data ready, what we do is we open the training data set in the Watson Natural Language Classifier user interface. So here we see in this interface all the reviews that are negative, neutral, and positive. I can change the view as well, and I can filter so I can see all the positive reviews. So this is a tool that a SME or someone with, in this case, knowledge in Japanese will actually come back always and check if these annotations are accurate. And once I have all the data ready and nicely annotated, I can basically hit train. And this training process will take a while. So for the purpose of this demo, I already trained the model, and I'm going to click here and show you the results. So in this case, this is what we call the model summary view. So we see that the model is available. It was already trained. We train a model in Japanese. We use 4 different classes, and we can see how many examples we use to train this model. In this case, 75. And we can get a little bit more information about the different classes that we created, negative, neutral, not sure, and positive, and how many examples we use for each of them. We have also here a user interface to test the performance of the model. So I'm going to use the testing dataset that I created before, and this allows me to evaluate if this model is working well or not. So I see all the different reviews, and automatically I'm getting some predictions. So I'm going to select the positive reviews with a threshold of confidence above 70%. And basically, I'm getting here a set of predictions based on that. So this is another interface that is really handy to understand if your model is performing well or not, and use some of the test cases. Now, let's assume that this model performs well. What we will do next is go to the implementation tab and basically use this model to integrate that model into either an application or a business process. And to do that, you need all the API information to call this model. So here you have the URL, the API endpoint, and how to basically consume this model and code snippets in Java, Node, and Python. So that's the end of the demo. We are really excited about what you can build now with Define Crowd and Watson Studio, and let's talk soon. Thank you.
We will share all of these things anyways. We're happy to walk you through other testing programs. Like I said, every model you're training, it will require a different test suite and a different testing program. And if you're looking to test some vendors in the future, please do consider Define Crowd. We specialize in high quality custom data sourcing and annotation with international reach. And we'd love the chance to get to show you what we can do. To request a trial account, please go to definecrowd/account/trial, and we'll be in touch. I hope to hear from all of you soon, and I will now get back to the chat environment and help on the questions. I have also, I believe, our CTO, João Freitas, who can continue on the chat beyond me. So I'm getting a question around, could you, I believe, could you do sentiment and entity again? Meaning, oh, could you clarify sentiment and entity? Yes, absolutely, yes. So sentiment tagging is a NLP, natural language processing process and application that essentially allows you to to classify on text whether to classify some level of emotion about your customers. So it's very used for many areas of marketing assessment and customer feedback. It can go through, it can be applied on customer and product reviews, as well as email complaints or chatbot feeds and queries in customer support. Entity tagging, and so sentiment applies to an entire sentence or an entire paragraph sometimes, or the entire document, or the whole, like a snip of something. Whereas an entity is a smaller unit, also text, that is usually a representation of a class in the world. Something like a noun, a proper noun, or a person's name, or a brand, or a company, or so McDonald's is one entity, or and if you go down into the types of categorization in food, you start having things like, for example, meat and all the different categories of meat, vegetables and all the different. So these are entities, so classes of the way we humans organize the world. More questions? Thank you, Bean. And we have another question from Marius. You will be able to download the video in a couple of weeks. Oh, yes. Sorry, that's probably the person monitoring this conversation. Yes. Please, Bean, go ahead with more questions. So the question is, how is the use of goal set to measure data partner? So how does that work, right? So you, so the goal set is you think about it as a question for which you know the answer. So you're gonna take a sentences or reviews. You're going to annotate them yourself because you're the best person to do the first take on the product review. You're gonna have a second expert, or and ideally a third expert on your team doing the same thing. So at least 2 out of 3 people agree on what should be the category and the label for at the sentiment level and entities level in that snip. And it's in that string, you're gonna do around 20% of that for the test set, and that's gonna become you're gonna blend that in your vendors' data, and that's gonna become your goal truth. So whenever your vendors annotators hit that goal set, which you know the answer for, you will know if they are too far. And there's levels of ambiguity that can be close enough, but if they are completely off, you will have an idea of performance, individual performance. So we use them to assess individual scores in our platform. And we, by the way, this is a test set, but we actually bake in these concepts in every data workflow we provide to our clients. So this is a standard that we use across the board. It's different from voice to image to natural language processing. We don't support only natural language processing activities. And every case has its own gold sets. So yeah, so this is exactly, so of course you measure on goal sets, precision and recall, which are in NLP other measures, and F1 score combines precision and recall, which has to do with the representation of the labels in the world you want to predict. And it's public information, very easy to access, and the 101 in data science techniques, especially NLP. And someone is commenting on, did not know that was so much work in data for AI. You have no idea, Faustina. It's basically sucks the time of everybody in organization, which is why even the big organizations like Google's and Amazon's, who have hundreds of data scientists in-house at a good price, they obviously don't want them wasting 80% of their time around this type of very multidisciplinary, and it's because it involves legal, it involves software development, it involves mathematics, it involves many disciplines all combined in one. More questions. I believe we still have like 10 minutes. In any case, I have our CTO probably plugged in too, in case I cannot keep up with the volume of questions, but I guess you guys are not asking enough questions. Good. Someone is not shy. Good, Bean. Now, this is a test set, but imagine when you actually, I'm just commenting on a little bit on this, imagine when you actually have thousands and millions of entry points to process in an organization. It's impossible. So the next question from Tal is, if you draw your data from public access journals, how much of a burden does this put on the source website? So I'm not sure if I understand the question. One thing for sure is when you draw data from public websites, you have to make sure that you're complying with the copyrights of those websites. So I'm not sure in terms of course, if that's something that is public and you can even call through an API like Twitter data, or you have a limit of what you can call. And that depends on the source of that you're requesting, and then it becomes paid. So it's something in those lines. Not sure if I answered the question. And yes, we can share slides to be downloaded. Absolutely. We need to understand if it's going to be done by us or by the IBM Community Day organization. Otherwise, we're happy to provide them offline. You just can hit us at sales@definecrowd.com and we'll mention this webinar. Oh, there you go. Juliet is already responding. Thank you. You're going to be able to access through login of this event. Okay, so it's going to be posted on your area. Excellent. And Bean again is asking, I would like to know how many people are doing annotation for a language. How to determine, okay, I'm going to respond one by one. It's a few ones. How do you determine whether F1 score threshold that is being determined for each paragraph in terms of percentage, and how reliable is it? Okay, so on how many people are doing annotation, it really depends on, okay, João, thank you, João. It depends on how many, okay, João is responding to Tom, thank you. It depends on the size of your data. So for annotation tasks, because especially entity tagging, because it's such a difficult task to qualify native speakers, only 30% in general of the native speakers that pass a language test in defined crowd are actually able to pass entity tagging type of jobs. Sentiment is slightly different, but entity tagging and other types of voice-related jobs. What does that do is that there are not that many people. So it really depends on, and on annotation jobs, you want a person to do as many tasks as possible because they get better and better as they do it. But on data collection jobs, you actually limit the amount because you want diversity. You don't want to have, let's say you're asking someone to come up with voice recordings of for dialect samples of how different ways of asking, for example, Alexa on how to reorder salt or coffee. So that kind of thing, you need really to usually, and it ranges from 50 people to 4,000 people. So we have data collections sometimes running involving 4,000 different people. And again, I think there was something around the other, I think let's see, where is that other question? How do you determine the F1 score? Well, on F1 score, the closer to 1, the better, because it's kind of it's the combination between precision and recall. It's a mathematical formula, and so you want it closer to 1. You are really the person to determine your threshold. We don't admit anything below 0.8, ideally 0.9, because it's closer to 100% of the combination of precision and recall. But of course, some tasks, depending on the speed you want the task to be accomplished, and maybe you have already a good baseline model, so you're adding just more information, you can lower a little bit the F1 score. But it really depends on how fast you want the data done, because every time we put a threshold at that level, you have a lot of people being discarded. So let's see if I didn't miss anything. And it's reliable because it's a mathematical standard community formula. João, you might need to help me here because now the questions are flooding. So I think there's Noel asking, I'm a Q&A analyst. Do you think, so Q&A as in question answer? Do you think question answers are needed in AI? Is that what you're asking, Noel? And while Noel is answering, Christian is asking, how do you see AI changing the field of speech therapy? Well, in speech therapy, that's I can give a very obvious example that I believe there's still, the technology is getting there, but still not a lot of applications there. Speech therapy using speech recognition with baseline models that actually Rosetta Stone, which is not a speech therapy application, it's actually an education, a language education application, had already probably 10 years ago a way that when you're learning a second language and you start speaking, you read sentences that they're prompt to you, you can have a comparison at the signal level of what you're doing off in terms of accent and articulation. I can see that very easily being ported to speech therapy. I've not been involved in that field recently, and our clients are not coming from that field yet. But I can totally see how AI can continue helping speech therapy. And so you wanted, and so back to Noel, how question answers are needed to, well, Q&A is the process of keeping people in the loop to improve AI systems and machine learning is the key here. This is why Define Crowd exists, because people will never be all out of the loop, especially in language-related applications. There's always an infinite number of new domains that and new wisdom and new knowledge areas that are really being built every day. So I cannot imagine a world where people will be out of the machine learning improvements and testing. So that will be always blended in. And I don't know if I'm missing anything right now, but I think, are we done with the Q&A session? I don't know, is it 12:16 right now? I love when the crowd is starting to be excited, and now I don't know if are we going to be cut off. If you can still make more questions, I'll answer until they cut me off. Thank you as well. Thank you, everybody. And don't hesitate to send more questions to us. We're mentioning the AI, this AI IBM Community Day. We'd love to continue answering more questions at sales@definecrowd.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn too. Please mention, though, that this comes from this webinar. Otherwise, I have too many requests that I don't recognize. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, Tal. And thank you, Bean, for the very curious and questions. And you were the person breaking the ice here. And I have another question. Until they cut me off, I continue asking your questions. So do you think it would be interesting to mix VR with voice recognition to easily create associations? Associations development. Not sure if I understand the application here, but from Mark Andre's question, but what I can definitely say is that all these new AR, VR, and speech recognition, and natural language processing, and computer vision applications are all we see a world where they're gonna be blended in, because everything that is human-computer interaction is turning into a voice interaction, such as the way humans communicate with each other, which is the most natural way of communicating. We will communicate with machines the same way. And as we're gonna move to a world where VR and AR is gonna be part of our training and education, and obviously that's the way to communicate with those machines too, is through voice and gestures and multimodal interactions. And Krishna, who joined later, is asking, what is our company about? It's a data platform to provide data collection and data annotation of high quality and fast than anybody else, and at scale and in multilingual 46 language support to AI applications. We're tailored particularly to cognitive services and human-computer interaction, so any application around voice interaction or natural language processing or computer vision, and testing of all of these systems. And Louise is saying, if I want to create a chatbot powered by AI for mobile phones, what type of data I should take? What type of machine learning models should I use, and libraries? So that is a larger question. Definitely, we are the place to come for chatbot data collection, skill augmentation, and testing. We partner with other players in this field as well, and we're starting to partner with IBM more and more in the Watson Assistant. The type of, so you definitely should not invent the wheel if you don't have a PhD in voice or NLP, frankly. There are many frameworks out there, including Watson Assistant, that can help you get jump started in a chatbot area. And there's, of course, a few other players out there that do that too. So they all, you build them from a rule-based system mostly, and we can provide you with all the variations of intents and entities that is required to build a chatbot. And thank you, João, for that. And Christian is asking, do you have any clients in the medical field, and what are they looking for? So actually, at the moment, we are not working with the medical related clients. We are working with pretty much all the large corporations that you can think of, but not with those divisions in. Well, actually, that's not true. We actually just occurred to me. Yes, no, we are working in Europe with one of the greatest hospitals in Portugal. In the NLP space, predicting actually ICD-10 medical report categorization, which is a very, very complex and scalable process, because ICD-10, the ICD-10 standard is a WHO standard that affects about 20 countries in the world, including the US. It's a language-specific natural language processing task, and we have been structuring all that data and actually training baseline models for them to very tailored to the medical field. And Armani saying, if I just started to develop experience in the AI world, what advice do you have for me? Well, I would first say you got to do your homework. Don't come up with something without seeing what's out there, because there's a lot of cool frameworks that are being exposed, including by IBM, where you can get started on. And of course, the next step is and you probably should start in one type of application before you blend them in, like blending voice recognition with VR, for example, or other ways or blending with computer vision. So there's many frameworks already there that help you jumpstart and play around and do something that works for a narrow domain. Where things get complicated is when you have a decent sized company, like something like an airline, and you need to create a whole custom support voice and bot area or applications, or insurance or retail or any of those areas. So that is where it gets complicated. The larger the organization, the more complicated. So what's out there is more limited. And Sanjay is asking, how do you deal with an imbalanced data, especially related to language models? Well, you obviously need to collect more to fill the gaps of your of the categories that are less represented. And that's the big challenge there. Most of the times, your partner in data doesn't know what to do and expects you to guide them, which is not our case, because we are experts in the AI space and in the data field. So you really have to, you really don't want to do it yourself. You don't want to run into copyright issues if you're crawling the web. The crawling process can be super messy, especially if you go on a language that you don't speak. There's many, many constraints around that. Augmentation of data, it's possible. Yes, you can, what we call, data augmentation, data which is basically what I usually say, putting rain in California. So all of these data augmentation types of activities applied to both vision or NLP or voice are possible. So you can add different types of noise into clean speech to start representing the type of environment you want to address. You can blend in sun and or weather conditions into a picture. You can blend in well, on the NLP task, it's a little more tricky. You gotta have at least syntactic parsing and tokenization information to understand where you can insert chunks of data, and each language behaves in a different way. Not all of them allow you to insert content without taking care of agreements and grammatical structures that can be broken. But that's a process that can be done and add, for example, replace entities by others, create different content and rich content like that, and have, and again, a validation step by the crowd. So you're asking, Christian is asking, how do you analyze data that is not normalizable, such as genetic data? Well, we don't handle genetic data. That's a simple question. Not yet. And Sanjay is saying, is it easy in vision? But I think it creates noise in case of an LP. Well, it does. So back to that question, it does. It needs to be reviewed by a human. And Louise is asking, the idea for making my chatbot is to create some predefined responses. But depending on the user input in the chat room, the bot will choose the right advice and then learn from the user input from future questions. It would be questions in the medical and psychological field. Is this possible? It is possible, but Louise, honestly, not with the technologies out there right now, because none of them are statistically learning driven unless you're a big company and you can come to IBM or one of the other providers and ask for this particular scope. Everything out there is mostly rule-based, so if you don't have enough variety in your rules to represent the questions, you can't do a self-learning model easily in the bot area. Or you build it your own. You build your own statistically driven dialogue system. But you gotta probably get a PhD in NLP and have some experience. And there's probably more room for one more question. I think we're gonna be cut at 12:30, right? Let's just make sure. And Abdul is asking, please guide me, what AI skills should I require to join IBM as a junior? Is there any internee program? Well, I am the wrong person to ask that, but I certainly can point you to the careers website of IBM. I don't work for IBM, Abdul. I'm sorry. You should start in research. There's research people. The research at IBM has probably plenty of internship areas of opportunities. I just don't work for IBM. I can't answer that. And Sanjay, oh, maybe Lynn is saying, please check the resource page after the conference. Thank you, Lynn. So on Sanjay's question, João, I don't know if we are the best person to answer that, because the Jupyter notebooks on building chatbots on Watson Assistant, I don't know if they are available, but definitely we can point you to the Watson Assistant website, which you have to have an IBM Watson Studio account. And Lynn is gonna provide a lot of resource links. All right. So Lynn, since you're helping moderating, are we done or is there room for more questions? Thank you, everybody. Really, thank you so much for this exciting crowd. Hope I could pass some practical tips on how to choose a partner in data for AI. And please, if you can, do try Watson Studio and do try to build a simple sentiment tagging model. Because it's gonna be super exciting when you see the results of that. And there's a lot of defaults that you don't have to be a data scientist to actually be able to build a model on your own, get the data done, because we'll take care of that, and you can start seeing something moving, which is super exciting. And thank you, João Freitas, our CTO, for helping me on the chat room. And thank you, everybody. Well, I think I will wrap up here. Because I'm sure the next session is starting for you. So have a great day, everybody, and you were a great crowd. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.